Hi, I'm Yoshi the Dragon. Okay, this is lecture 2 of the reality game. And in our reality game, we're using a technology to develop a Matrix simulation, just like the Matrix movies that Keanu Reeves were in. Now, how is it done? Well, it's an incredibly complicated thing. It might be based on scalar wave information. It's definitely information based. Everything in your reality is information. So when you see a tree, Mandelbrot fractals is how it could be described in information. And if you look in a video game and you see, scenery like that, it can all be created through graphics cards and software that uses a lot of mathematical transformations. And, it could be using fractals or it could be some other way. I mean, everyone knows there's many ways to skin a cat. But the reality that you live in, how would you say it is different than Keanu Reeves' Matrix? If you haven't seen the movies, like many people apparently haven't, well, you can go to the library and get one. The first one, any of them really is enough to give you an idea, but probably the first one is the best to get you familiarized with the idea that reality is nothing but information. Now, in the old days, old books, they called everything was spirit. What does spirit mean? It means kind of like alive, I suppose. Everything was alive, made of spirit, so it was made of one thing, and spirit had kind of a religious connotation to it. Whereas in the Matrix movies, everything is, they said basically digitized. So everything is digital information. Now, from the old days, I'm going to have to turn this hat backwards because my Yoshi voice is disappearing. So in the olden days, if you're young, you might, I don't know, you're sure you've heard of records, like LPs and 45s. And it was just a spinning vinyl disc. And that was known as analog information. The information was stored in an analog record. It was not digital. There was nothing digital at all to the record or the needle that played the record. Then there was a small magnet device that was attached to the needle that created an electric current, which is in a wave form, a sine wave, I suppose. And the sine wave was put into amplifiers. Originally they were made with vacuum tubes, and later on they were some other technology that I can't tell you if I still think it was, the analog signal was magnified. I don't think it was changed into a digitized until the invention of the CD. And the CD player had an analog to digital converter device. So before that, there was nothing digital. So this reality that in the Matrix, if they developed it the same way, they would say it was digital. But knowing what we know about analog, it could be analog too. Unless you're smarter than me, and quite likely there are people way smarter than me. So you could prove me wrong, and I would go, you're right. I don't have, a PhD in computer science or, software development or anything like that. I'm very much a generalist person. So if you think I'm wrong and you think that this could not be analog, well, at least I'd like you to cite something if you're going to go and give me something. So I've got something to read and, see if my common sense Usually my common sense says, yes, this is going to work, or it's going to say this is not going to work. There's no way. I've got too many flaws in it with my Simple Simon kind of way of looking at it. Or it might just be like so much mathematical formula that I'm going to look at it and I'm going to say, does it prove it to me? No. Mathematical formula is no way to prove anything to the layman. Why? Because it just looks like gobbledygook. I remember when I was, 3 or 4 years old, and I was watching television. At the end of the television, when they put the credits up, and it was all in English print. And I remember there was like these symbols that were going across the screen, but I didn't know what they were. I couldn't read. But at that time, I don't know if I ever asked what that was. You soon learned once you got to school that those were, letters and numbers, words. But I do remember a time when I couldn't read, and that's what it's like when it's not like I haven't taken a lot of mathematics, it's just blocked for me now. What does that mean? Well, in this reality game, everything you're taught about how memories are stored in your brain is just come from a textbook. And I was reviewing a textbook. It was the Gleitman psychology textbook that is very commonly used in Canadian universities. It's not a new edition. This edition was my sister's, and she took this course 30 years ago. So maybe it's a bit out of date. But what they thought even then, it wasn't accurate. It wasn't accurate. I think that the science that even today, I'd have to pull some more things, but well, I guess I'm assuming that they haven't updated it to talk about different ways of storing things. There was no mention there of hologram, and since the time of that textbook, I read a lot about holograms, and holograms can store all kinds of information. So, it wouldn't surprise me if they haven't updated that textbook, because I don't feel like our universities are progressive. It seems to me they're designed that you go, you get your degree, and then you end up doing something not related at all to your university degree. Anyway, where are we now? I have to check our time. Okay, I've got a few more minutes. Let's talk about the information then. So, if we are living in an informational world, all of the stuff we're looking at is information, and it comes in to your body through your senses. Eyes, ears, nose, your skin has, different ways of feeling hot and cold, and, pressure sensors. And then the information that comes in through your eyes, if you've learned to read, then you can translate, the symbols into words that mean, sentences and paragraphs, and build it into, great stories or concepts, etc. But it's all information. Everything in this world, one way or another, is information. Now, I'm not going to do anything more than just remind you, everything here is information. Okay, that's the end of lecture 2 of the reality game.